Let me see, 7 p.m., 7:01 actually, and it is February 27th, 2023 for a regular meeting. Roll call, please.
Director Dye.
Here.
Director Decker.
Here.
Director Penrose.
Here.
Director Raddak.
Here.
Director Clark.
Present.
Chair Slater Carter.
Present. Now we move into oral public comment and oral communications for items not on the agenda. I'm looking for hands up. I see Greg, followed by Aaron. Greg.
Yeah, I have two questions or comments. It depends on what you're doing as to whether they're questions or comments. I'm wondering, has anyone asked for or planned a forensic analysis of what happened on December 31st, that disaster? It seems to me there were multiple factors there, not just a creek. So that's one question, and I would recommend that. And secondly, I noticed that the damage assessments that are being published for the SAM equipment seem awful low. I understand there's a lot of IPS work that's going to have to be done. Is the philosophy, should the philosophy not be to include the derivative damage, which results from the extra stress on the IPS because of the shutoff and that emergency? Shouldn't that also be part of a claim, whether it's an insurance claim or a FEMA claim? So those are my questions / comments. Thanks.
Ethan?
Yes. To respond to, would you like me to respond to questions?
Please.
Okay, very briefly. The first question, no, we have not yet requested a forensic audit as of now for the December 31st storm event. Answer to your question number two, yes, as of now, we've just submitted a preliminary damage assessment. And the way the county is handling it is on March 8th, we have a session with the county wherein they're going to tell us how we need to turn in our paperwork for the, I think they call it as public assessment or whatever. They have a workshop there which tells us how we need to turn in. And we have time until March 18th. And at that point of time, we'll make sure that we put all the estimates and then turn in our application. So what we turned in was only a preliminary damage assessment.
Thank you. Aaron.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking my hand. This is actually directed to Director Clark. A couple questions for you, sir. During the GCSD meeting on Thursday at 3 hours, 9 minutes, and 25 seconds, you made a statement saying that 68% of the budget goes to SAM to pay for the necessary procedures that happen through there, the necessary treatment. Then you said we should pay more attention. At 3 hours, 10 minutes, and 18 seconds, you then said we need to pay attention. So you repeated the same statement. I'm not sure what you meant by that, and just I'm very curious, and with all my heart, what does that mean, sir?
The change to becoming a community services district gave GCSD Parks and Recreation Authority. And we expected that would mean there would be more people at the meetings, and that's turned out to be true. And there would be a lot of focus on it, particularly as we got started. And the meetings have recently been dominated by Parks and Rec material. And I wanted to remind people that on a monthly basis, we spend 68% of our outgo currently still for SAM, and that we give, SAM is low on the agenda, late usually, and people, especially during a three-hour meeting, people have had enough meeting, and we give really short reports about SAM. So that's what I was getting at.
That makes a lot of sense with that statement. I am grateful for you clarifying that. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Thank you. Sid.
Sorry. Hi, Carlisle Ann Young. I'm a resident of Moss Beach, California, where the pipeline burst up there. It was so deteriorated. I think it was in the northern Moss Beach area opposite the wine room and the post office, if anyone doesn't know where that pipeline burst back in late December/early January during that storm. But my understanding from reading and listening to SAM meetings was it was so deteriorated that when the sewage backup occurred, it caused it to leak in several spots, and that means it needs to be replaced. I believe that they said the cause was due to the flow of the excess sewage north of Half Moon Bay because it was being held back so that the sewer plant would not overflow during the storm. So correct me if I was wrong on that conception or concept, but then at the last SAM meeting, I was just appalled to hear that the two council members from Half Moon Bay only approved those repairs of that pipe under protest. Geez, guys, come on. How would the ratepayers of Half Moon Bay feel if the northern districts protested by not allowing the plant manager to turn off the flow of sewage from the north during future storms? I see that capability as a total benefit to Half Moon Bay since they have no wet weather storage facilities. So I don't understand why you're protesting, and maybe it doesn't occur right within the city limits, but it definitely would benefit you to be more neighborly like we are to you when we let our sewage back up all the way to Montero during a storm. So I'd like to know if in your listening sessions coming up or the ones that are ongoing, if you're planning to create some wet weather storage for the city of Half Moon Bay. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid. I don't see any other hands up. Do we have any more public comment? Seeing none, let's move on to the consent agenda, which is approve the minutes of February 13, approve disbursements for February 27, monthly review and expense report for the period ending January 31, 2023, accept the quarterly financial report for the second quarter of the fiscal year, authorize the general manager to attend and be reimbursed for expenses related to the California Water Environment Association Annual Conference, April 18 to 21 in San Diego, and the status of capital improvement projects for 2021, 2022, and 2022, 2023. Do we have a motion?
I would like to hold item 3D because I have some questions.
That would be the financial report, quarterly financial report for.
Yes.
Okay.
And I also note that item 3E is precisely and exactly the same as item 4D and has the same documentation as well. So we need to decide whether that stays in consent or we, which I think it would be proper, or should we consider it regular business and address it at 4D?
I think we should keep it in consent for timeliness, but clearly it was considered important. So, Jeremy.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Once it's approved on consent, then it moots it because it's already been approved. So assuming the board doesn't want to pull it off consent, that'll take care of it. And I don't know if Director Dye, this was what you're going to want to talk about. I know you had some proposed changes. I'm able to share those to the minutes if that's what you were going to bring up. So just to the extent you still want to do that, I can share those and let the board see it.
And I have one more comment after that.
Okay, Barbara Dye, followed by Peter Decker.
Well, I can let Jeremy handle the minutes revision, which I submitted. I discussed with Kitchen and submitted. And then I just had a quick question on on the F, the status of CIP projects. Shall I just ask that right now?
Yeah, so Director, did you want to pull 3A off of consent so we could talk about it?
Oh, okay. If we need to talk about it, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's pull 3A, 3D, and 3F off of consent. Peter.
Something to say about 3D.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve 3B, 3C, and 3E?
So moved.
Second?
Second that. I'll second that.
Thank you, Peter. Roll call, please.
Director Dye,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Penrose,
Aye.
Director Radek,
Aye.
excuse me, Director Clark,
Aye.
Chair Slater Carter.
Yes. All right. Let's handle item 3A, approve the minutes of February 13th, 2023 for the regular board meeting. Jeremy?
Yeah, did you want me to go ahead and share, or should we wait until your comments? I can go ahead and share if you're ready.
Barbara?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, here we go.
Yes, Jeremy, I've given you control.
Okay. Are you seeing Director Dye's comments?
The one in blue.
Yes. Okay, so this hopefully is large enough. These were the proposed changes that Director Dye had to the minutes, and so Kishan and I don't have any concerns with making these changes, assuming the board is amenable.
Okay, shall we handle these separately, or shall we handle them, all three of them with one motion?
Rob,
Let me just say that I listened to the meeting and I feel very comfortable that these reflect what was said in the meeting.
They reflect my memory of the meeting, yes. So, board, shall we do them individually or as a batch of all three? Let's just do a consensus.
It's only two.
I pulled 3F as well.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Why don't we approve the minutes?
Okay,
As a separate item?
let's, so is that a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I move that we approve the minutes as amended.
And Peter seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Director Dye,
Yes.
Director Decker,
Aye. Yes.
Director Penrose,
Yes.
Director Radek,
Yes.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Chair Slater Carter.
Yes.
Minutes approved.
Okay, then somebody had a question about 3D, accept the quarterly financial report for the second quarter of the fiscal year 2022-23.
Director Decker also did, but I brought it up first. I noted that in the quarterly finance report at item number 11 on these are on pages 49 and 50, there were under professional services, $95,113 were allocated to the SEP fund for excess BOD / plant upset. That sure sounds like paying a fine to me. And how does that come?
Yes, you're absolutely right.
How does that come under professional services?
We had the committee had exactly that same question. So here's the answer we got. Keishan.
Yeah. We put that in the professional membership because it was a fine, although it was a fine being paid to the State Water Control Board, the fine was divided into two parts. One was going to the State Water Board itself, and the second was to the professional organization, which is the San Francisco Estuary, for carrying out certain environmental, and therefore it was a check directly made to San Francisco Estuary, a professional organization, and therefore we decided to put it in a professional membership rather than put it under miscellaneous or anything for fine.
Well, surely the San Francisco Bay Estuary Group is a worthy organization. However, we live on the other side of the bay and the hill on the ocean, and I don't think they performed any professional services for us. So it seems incongruous to me. And I note at item 13, there was a payment of $78,000 for civil liabilities, the State Water Pollution Cleanup Account. Now that's also a fine, and it landed under miscellaneous. So we have two fines paid, and one's assigned to professional services of all things, and the other is where I think it should be miscellaneous, since we don't have line items for fines, and I hope we'd never do.
Exactly.
It's actually professional memberships is item 13.
That's exactly my point, Matthew. I think it's absolutely wrong to separate these two penalties and fines into professional memberships and miscellaneous expenses. And I'm grateful to the Financial Committee that they gave the explanation as to exactly where it went. But if we're talking about $124,500 being paid for penalties and fines, I think they should have their own category. Because this is going to be an item that is going to be repeated in the future. After all, we have this large penalty hanging over our heads for the spills on the 31st of December. So why not put it there where everybody knows what it is?
So we could possibly put it under claims and penalties.
Yes.
Yes.
Good idea.
We can club both of it, remove it from these two categories and shift it to claims and penalties.
Absolutely, yes.
Perfect.
Is that a change in our past procedures? I get concerned when we start switching things around because it makes backtracking and data mining more difficult. So what have we done in the past?
It's difficult to go back to 2017 when we last had to pay fines. I'm not sure about it. I don't remember it. But as the directors are suggesting, it's a good practice to put it under claims and penalties. I think we should go ahead and do that.
Okay, I'd like to have a note then that we've made a change so that people can who are doing some financial detailing can find out.
Yeah, what we could do is
recognize that.
Sure. What we could do is in the final report, the budget Q2 final report, we could possibly put an asterisk once we put it on claims and penalties and say that this was under certain categories, such a category in the past, and now it's been moved to this.
And there was a question. Okay, is everyone comfortable with that?
Perhaps we could put the revised quarterly report on consent for next meeting.
That would make sense.
We'll bring it back to the meeting, to the board in the next meeting.
With the changes made?
Sure.
Deborah Ruddock.
I'd like to also make sure that we define what miscellaneous means so the public knows what categories of expenses are going under miscellaneous rather than just miscellaneous. Something in the notes to define it.
There was also a discussion at the committee about under the SAM analysis of fund balance on 48 on page 48, there was a category unassigned. And what we decided to do, as I recall, is to use the official GASB definitions and words. So I have asked to have a reference to some kind of glossary so that we can go to GASB and see what it is. I think we need to be using all of the vocabulary in GASB and not trying to improvise on things. And I think putting the definitions of miscellaneous in there, I'm trying to think, it was GASB 54, I think, that used the word unassigned is an official GASB term. And I may be wrong on that number. I didn't write it down, but it just made sense to use all the appropriate GASB terminology and not be improvising, which is what Peter does. And so there we are. Looking at Peter Decker, followed by Peter Medina, followed by Barbara Dye.
Since I want to just address what you just said, is there a chance that I could go ahead?
Oh, sure.
I'm the one who raised this issue several times about unassigned, and I have been assured by the accounting staff that there is no other way to phrase it. Those are funds, however, which have been budgeted for infrastructure work. So I have a hard time with the word unassigned, but I went ahead and agreed that if this is one of the rules of accounting, then we'll have to live with it. But that money is actually not unassigned. That is money that is committed to infrastructure.
Okay, let me put this in for the record. GASB statement number 54 reads, in government funds other than the general funds, assigned fund balance represents the remaining amount that is not restricted or committed. Unassigned fund balance is a residual classification of the government's general fund and includes all spendable amounts not contained in other classifications. So that's I think it's important to be using GASB. Peter Decker.
And just a minor issue on page number 6, the last sentence, it says, which represents 1/4 of the full year budget amount. That column doesn't show the quarter of a full year budget amount. It shows half of the full year budget amount.
Okay.
Yes. Page 49 of the PDF. Good catch. Yep. Because it's a Q2.
It's only Q2. Okay. Jeremy?
Yes, just put one issue on the record based on one of the previous comments. And that is, although we could be looking at a fine from the regional board, just note that given the circumstances under which the spills occurred, I would contend for the record here, for anybody listening, that one of the exceptions to mandatory minimum penalties and fines is when there's an emergency situation. And so that remains to be seen how the regional board responds, but I would just put it out there that that may be something to consider.
Thank you. Peter, you had your hand up. Peter Medina, did you have something to say?
Yes, I brought it down because it may be a better conversation suited for the finance committee meeting, but it's more to Director Ruddock's point. As far as miscellaneous, the term as far as its use, but then it's more so, I think it's a very good point as far as the roll-ups. Sam's jail has a number of accounts that roll up into the miscellaneous category. I think it would be better for the viewer and the public to just see, okay, well, we call it miscellaneous, but it contains all these assortment of accounts, which I agree, as far as knowing what's in there is going to be more beneficial for the reader. So that's what I was going to say as far as kind of at the end of the report to include a category roll up, basically to show all the accounts and then kind of how they roll it into the various categories for the numbers that are used for the budget. I think would be very useful. Just once again, just more transparency as far as okay, here are the accounts. So yeah, that's what I was going to say and not say it, but then I said it.
Thank you. And so we're going to put item 3D from the consent agenda, this meeting, on the next consent agenda item with the changes we've discussed having been made into it. And 3F, which is, oh dear.
Status of CIP projects.
Yeah, thank you. I changed my phone and lost the agenda. So the status of the CIP projects for 2 years.
Yeah, Director, I had a question.
Well, first of all, I want to compliment you on what I think may be a new chart, this plan tracker chart, which I really like. It shows, the status of each of the projects as we go along between vendor outreach and quote preparation, submittal review and revision, fabrication, delivery, and construction. And it shows where we are in all the projects. I think that's great. So my one actually comment is that you have one project for here that's been completed. And I think there ought to be a spot on page 64, which shows the plan progress tracker that you have completed the project of backup electric power generator. That was my only comment. I think it's a great chart. I really like it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And that's the generator which is being delivered sometime this week.
That actually came today, Kishan, this afternoon.
Oh, it did came today? Okay.
But I think it would just be nice for the completeness of the chart to show all the projects, and the fact that one's done doesn't mean it should go off the chart. It should show that something's been accomplished, which I think is great.
Okay. Thank
you. Do we have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda item 3F?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Director Dye?
Yes.
Director Decker?
Aye.
Director Penrose?
Yes.
Director Radek?
Aye.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Chair Slater Carter?
Yes.
Mission approved.
Yay. So we have made our way through consent agenda, and we are moving on to regular business. Item A, receive the flow distribution details for the calendar year 2022.
Yeah, so if we bring this flow details to the board this time of the year, every year, because this is the basis on which our general budget allocations are done to the 3 member agencies. And as you see from the chart, there has been an increase in the Half Moon Bay contribution from 59.44 to 61.5, and therefore led to a decrease in both GCSD and MWSD contribution. So staff is here to answer any questions.
Move approval.
I muted myself, sorry. Looking for hands, I don't see any, and I heard somebody move approval. Was that you, Matthew?
No.
Oh, it was someone else.
It's me, I'm the motion maker.
Barbara.
Okay, Barbara. And second. A second from Director Penrose. Roll call vote, please.
Director Dye?
Aye.
Director Decker?
Aye.
Director Penrose?
Aye.
Director Radek?
Aye.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Chair Slater Carter?
Yes. Item 4B, that passes. Item 4B, authorize the general manager to issue a purchase order to GSE Construction for the installation of influent pumps for the influent pump station at the sand plant in the amount of $107,800.
So last year around this time, February 14th, 2002 to be precise, the board authorized purchase of the 5 replacement influent pumps. And keeping in mind all the supply chain management issues, we are now at least ready to install the influent pumps. So we sent out proposals to 3 contractors, out of which only 2 qualified contractors responded. We have GSE Construction and RF McDonald, and staff recommends that we issue a purchase order to GSE Construction, who is apparently the lowest, for about $107,800. Staff is here to answer any questions.
Okay, I see 2 hands, Peter Decker, followed by Matthew Clark.
I noticed the payment terms in the second offer, but I didn't see any payment terms in the offer from GSE Construction. Are they also insisting, like the other offer, on 25% down?
No, we've dealt with the GSE Construction in the past, and they've never had anything like down payment. They've done several projects for us in the past.
So the payment is also only to be made after the construction is over?
Correct.
Thank you.
Matthew Clark.
It didn't appear that GSE's proposal included getting rid of the old pumps. So my question is, what happens to those? And is that we're going to obviously not keep them around, so that's going to cost Sam some more money?
No, I don't know. I mean, we would normally keep these pumps aside, and then once we accumulate a lot of stuff at SAM, then we dispose it off. So we don't do it piece by piece. We clean up the plant in one shot sometime after a good number of equipments get accumulated to dispose of.
Do you sell it as scrap?
Yes.
Good.
But we do that after a considerable amount of equipment gets accumulated.
A similar question, GSE has got a long list of things that are not included, which is good to see in proposals because it specifies exactly what they're doing and not doing. Are there any things in their list of things that they're not including that are going to cost more money for SAM?
It's difficult to respond right now because we know for sure that these are the items which need to be excluded. But as time goes, if we have a situation where we would need the contractor to work on a Saturday and Sunday and complete something to get the influent pumps going, then we would probably need to pay overtime at that point of time. So otherwise, right now, whatever exclusions are there are not going to matter for SAM.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any more hands up. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Director Dye?
Aye.
Director Decker?
Aye.
Director Penrose?
Aye.
Director Ruddock?
Aye.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Chair Slater Carter?
Yes. Moving right along, we are moving to 4C, authorize the general manager to issue a purchase order to TNT Industrial Contractors, Inc., for the installation of bar screens for the headwork station at the SAM plant in the amount of $96,614.
So this is a similar situation to the item that we discussed in the last item. So last year in May, the board authorized us to procure new bar screens And this was ordered immediately on Juperon. We're now hoping to get it in this month. And we sent out inquiries to 3 qualified contractors. These are contractors who have installed bar screens for Juperon. So it was Juperon who recommended us these 3 contractors. We reached out to them and obtained the quotes. We find that TNT Industrial Contractors seems to be the apparent lowest bidder, and we would like to go ahead and issue a purchase order. So we recommend that the board authorize us to issue that. Staff is here to answer any questions.
Barbara, I see your hand up.
You're muted.
You're on
Barbara.
mute.
Sorry. Is this the 2021 CIP project for replacing bar screen drives and screens?
Correct.
And so it's already almost 300,000. And this is, I understand this is not within your control. This is not a criticism, but I'm noting that it appears to be $277,000 over budget for the purchase of the equipment. And then this addition is the cost of installing them. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's absolutely right. When we brought it to the board in May, I believe we indicated then that it was about the budgeted cost and it was $277,480. So with this increase, it increases our budget over onto $374,904.
I understand these things happen, especially today with contracts. It's very difficult. This is from 2 years ago to predict what the cost would be. I'm glad it's getting done. But I did want to note the fact that this is one of those projects within the capital improvement program that has turned out to be much more expensive to complete than was originally expected, which is something that, we have to juggle the various projects that we have. So I thought it was worthy of note. I'm not objecting to it. I am supporting this project.
Thank you. Matthew.
I have a not very pertinent question, but I have found and printed out a couple different lengthy glossaries of terms commonly used in the wastewater treatment business, and the word septage was used in the TNT proposal, and it wasn't in either of these glossaries. Can someone tell me what septage is? SEPTAGE?
Is that a legal question or an engineering question?
That's a dictionary question.
Dictionary question, I think. Tim, would you like to answer it?
Would you like me to answer it?
Please go ahead.
So septage, typically septage is what we refer to as the guys that come around in the honey dipper trucks or whatever you want to call them, that go around to the portable outhouses and stuff like that. And I mean, that's at the treatment facilities. That's what we refer to as septage. When we're speaking of septage, that's what we're talking about, those trucks.
I would not have guessed that. Thank you.
Good. It's good to learn a new word every day.
Move approval.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Director Dye?
Aye.
Director Decker?
Aye.
Director Penrose?
Aye.
Director Ruddock?
Aye.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Chair Slater Carter?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Moving right along, authorize the general manager to attend and be reimbursed for expenses related to the California Water Environmental Association Annual Conference, April 18 to 21 in San Diego.
We did that.
Did that in the consent.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's
Already
right.
approved.
Already approved. Moving
Yeah,
right
I'm sorry.
along.
I'm sorry, it was an error on my part. We included that twice.
Oh, well. Moving right along, general manager's report, winter storm expense details.
Yes, I have attached the expenses as of now. We've tried to capture as much as possible. So totals to about 1.1 million as of now. So these have either backup POs or backup invoices. The first page, which indicates open PO, means that they've not yet been invoiced, and but POs have been issued or contract has been signed. So that is in the first page, and the second page, which is project activity report, goes about 3 to 4 pages.
Are we seeing this?
Are the invoices which have been paid already? Pardon me?
Are you showing this? Or
No, I'm not showing. It's in your packet. It's in your packet. If you want it to be shown, I can share it, but.
Now, and this document will be changing as we tally up and discover all of the surprises from the flood, right? And,
Yeah, but
the whole storm system.
Yeah, but these, I intend putting this with the necessary backup to the county when we finalize our, the application which has to be submitted by March 18th.
So this will be changing until March 18th.
Yeah, whatever we can grab, we'll grab it.
Could you put it up on the screen, please, Kishan?
Jeremy, do you have the packet with you? Can you share it on the screen easily?
I think I can.
Okay, please, if you could do that for me.
Okay.
And I have a quick question, which is, and can you also talk about the status of our insurance reimbursement?
Yeah, as Jeremy's pulling it up, I can tell you I have no news yet from the insurance company. I sent them a reminder last week. I haven't yet heard from them.
Okay. What page do you want me to go to, Kishan?
Page 83 of 92.
Okay. 83 of
Yes.
92.
You're there. You have to increase your.
Oh, yeah, it went back. Hang on, let me try again. You know what? I'll just do this. Okay, let me make it bigger.
83, like this one, yes.
Okay.
Is this okay, Director Roddick?
Oops, went away. Hang on, I'm back to it. There we go.
Yep.
Do I need to make it bigger or are we good?
You're muted, Director Roddick.
Could you make it a little bigger, please?
Sure. How's that?
Good.
Kishan, you need me to do anything else?
No, I'm just waiting for questions.
Okay.
What is the project activity report by project number that follows this document?
The project, we've allotted a project number, which is 22 TP11 for all winter storm damage related items starting from December 31st.
I see.
Anything and everything, staff has to issue a PO or any expenses related to that. We make sure that that is put in the PO or in the invoices, which is submitted to us by the contractor. We make sure that this project code is indicated. Becomes easier for us to capture it on Tyler.
Thank you. So I am looking for hands up. Matthew, your hand is up.
I have two questions. We were told, the board was told earlier that we would have a report on what happened during the emergency, how, why, at the second February meeting, and we're not, I don't see it. So when can we look forward to that?
Yeah, I'm hoping to bring it to the next meeting. What happened? I was planning on bringing it for this meeting today, but our meeting with the consultant who's doing the flood modeling got pushed due to various reasons. We're actually having the meeting with him tomorrow. So I wanted a few questions to be answered, which directors had brought up. And I thought might as well compile everything and bring it to the board instead of giving it on a piecemeal basis.
Thank you. Secondly,
Jeremy, you have a contract. Okay.
What's that?
You had a contract up. Now we're back on the POs.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yes. Director Clark.
Secondly, the manager's report has flatly stated that turning off the flow from the two northerly districts caused the overflows and probably the leaks in the force main. So my question is, what would have happened if that flow had not been turned off?
If that flow had not been turned off,
Yeah. What if MWSD and GCSD's flows had been allowed to proceed as normal?
We would have flooded the plant and we would have lost the PG&E transformer, and none of the coast side would have had any sewage treatment for however long it would have taken us to get everything back.
yeah, we would have been submerged literally.
That's what I thought. So, yeah, it'd be nice if there had been an alternative, like more wastewater storage. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me see. Matthew, your hand is still up. I don't see any other hands up. I'm assuming there are no more questions on this item. Then let's move on to attorney's report.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Actually, yeah, I'm going to stop sharing here.
Continue to share.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I'm going to probably share again, just on the chart that, and this was originally sent out back in January. But I will share again here. Okay. Okay. So as many of you know, oh, by the way, can everybody see the chart?
No, but we can see your screen.
Green.
Oh.
You have a lot of icons.
Oh my. All right. Let's see here. Well, that happened. That was weird. Okay. Let's see here. You never know what's going to happen when you do screen share.
That's.
How about that?
There we go.
All right. So tomorrow is the end of the state of emergency.
Today.
After 3 years. So after that, there is a requirement to start going back to the way it was before COVID. Good news on that is that there are some options for traditional, people I guess don't realize it, but traditional Brown Act teleconferencing was already pretty permissive. So to the extent that people want to continue to participate remotely, board members that is, you can. The only thing is you have to have on the agenda for the meeting, you have to indicate where your remote location is, where you'll be participating. And should a member of the public show up at your remote location, you have to let them in and to observe the meeting. So that's the traditional teleconferencing rules. You can have it where the entire board can participate remotely under the traditional teleconferencing rules, but a majority have to be within the service area of the agency. So basically have to be a majority of board members would have to be participating from within SAM, but wouldn't have to be physically present. So there are options. And so I just wanted to kind of get a sense, and Kishan does too, from the board. Maybe Kishan, do you want to talk about kind of what you're thinking for, what happens for the next committee meetings and board meetings?
Yeah, I would think we are all geared up for a hybrid meeting in terms of the necessary equipment and other items. So that's not an issue at all. We only need to make sure that we have, like what you mentioned, the majority be present at SAM.
That actually, for operating under 2449, you have to have a majority at SAM. So 2449 is what you use. So 361, the middle column, that's out. We're going to be done with that as of tomorrow. So we're going to have one of two choices: traditional Brown Act teleconferencing, or AB. This is for remote participation, right? So your two choices are traditional Brown Act, which was before COVID, and AB 2449. The problem with AB 2449 is it's pretty limited. It really is appropriate. One, you do have to have a majority of the board in person from a single location. So in order to be able to use it at all, you need to have a majority would actually be physically present. Also, the conditions for using it are pretty narrow. You have to be able to show just cause, and you can only do it twice a year, or emergency circumstances. I look at 2449 as providing relief for when things come up that you weren't expecting and you weren't able to put it on the agenda in advance, right? But realistically, going forward, if you want to participate remotely via Zoom or however you can, you just have to let Sam know beforehand so they can put your remote location on the agenda. You're supposed to put a copy of the agenda posted wherever you are. And then if a member of the public shows up and says, hey, we want to participate, they have a right to do it. And so that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, that means, in a sense, since we need to have majority in our jurisdiction, it is necessary that one Half Moon Bay director at least must be present, because with MWSD and GCSD having full attendance at SAM would still not have a majority, and Half Moon Bay directors not being at SAM. That's a hypothetical thing I'm saying. So if one of the directors of Half Moon Bay decide to remotely do it from, say, City Hall, would that be also considered a jurisdiction, or?
Yes. Yeah, that's fine. As long as they're within, basically Montera, Grenada, or the city of Half Moon Bay, the three cities or the three entities that compose the JPA, that's fine. If, say, I know that Chair Slater Carter, sometimes she has a place in Lake Tahoe, lucky her. But that's outside the service area of the agency. So if she participates, so you have to make sure that, given our voting requirements, that, a majority are within, San Mateo County, so within the service area of San.
But then they should decide before we post the agenda as to where they're going to.
No, you would need to do that. And so if you happen to know that both of the Half Moon Bay members are out of the state, well, you might want to either think about canceling the meeting, or that we may be able to have some relief under AB 2449, but we'd have to look under whether the narrow circumstances there apply. But yeah, that's what we'd have to look at.
Now, is it also applicable for committee meetings, or is it only for board meetings?
It's applicable for both.
Oh,
both authorities are applicable for both. One difference though that's significant to keep in mind, and that is, if you lose connectivity, if we're doing traditional Brown Act teleconferencing, which was available, like I said, before COVID, there is no obligation to discontinue the meeting if you lose connectivity for a hybrid meeting. That is not true for 2449, much like 361, where we are right now. If you lose your remote connection, you're supposed to not take any further actions until you've been able to reestablish it. So if you're doing 2449, you lose connectivity, you got to stop, or at least you can't take any action on the item.
Jeremy, could you send us that document? It's not in the staff report.
Kishan, I think, sent it earlier today. Kishan, did you send it?
I didn't check my email earlier today, so thank you.
Yep, I did.
I am confused. Can we make this simpler? We're getting rid of AB 361. We're just going to put a big X through there. That's
Yep.
done.
Goodbye. Yep. AB 361, no mas.
Okay. And then it says traditional Brown Act and AB 2449. Are those either or? Do we need to choose one?
If you're going to participate remotely, you should choose one. Although you can actually have both.
Does the board need to choose one as a policy, or the board members choose one?
What I would recommend is that, since 2449 is so narrow, And absent emergency circumstances, which are narrowly defined, you can only use 2449 twice a year.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's really pretty limiting. It's for when like something comes up, you got to go pick up, your kid who, was in an accident. And so you got to pick them up, but you want to participate from your car, right? And so that would allow you to do that.
And not give an address.
Right, correct. It wouldn't be on the agenda beforehand. So what I'd recommend to the board is, to the extent that people want to participate remotely, they just provide, they can do it. They just need to make sure that they let the clerk of the board know beforehand and provide an address where they're going to be.
I would like to have us turn this into a board policy. So it's clear and we can refer back to it when the unavoidable confusion comes up.
Sure.
Thank you.
That'd be easy enough to do. Just so you know, though, I mean, this takes effect March 1st. I mean, we have to go, that's where we are. So we can certainly come back with a proposed policy if that would be helpful, but we're going to have to.
No, it starts at midnight tonight. But for future board meetings and policy and practices, I just would like to have it clear and in writing.
Sure.
Greg, I see your hand up and then followed by Tim.
Well, we already addressed one question. I'd appreciate a copy of this memo from Jeremy.
Actually, Greg, it's already in the December 12th board packet, but I can resend it to you. It's in.
Oh, no, that's good. As long as that. And Jeremy, could you define the just cause provision? And are you aware of what's going on in the legislature? Last time you mentioned there was a representative who pulled out. Bill, and is there anything going on that you're aware of right now, since I've written Becker and Berman and Newsom and received favorable replies from their staff, but that doesn't mean anything's really happening.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm happy to tell you what I know, which is not perfect, but there was the person who had actually sponsored AB 2449 was Blanca Rubio. She's a Southern California assemblywoman. So there was some of the I think it was LA County Sanitation, who their directors come from this very large area that's very difficult to get for them to get to meetings. And so they were going to approach her about potentially doing legislation that would kind of make different rules and make it easier to remotely participate for regional agencies. But she ultimately decided not to. If you do a look at some of the newspaper coverage about AB 361, it's not positive. I mean, I know the remote participation is popular among board members and among staff too, for that matter. But among the public and certainly in the media, it has not been positive. And so I think you see some of that with the fact that you haven't had a replacement or an extension of our current system. So, I have not heard that there's any replacement. There was one piece of legislation I saw at one point, but it was pretty narrow. I don't think it really, and to the extent it passes, it's not going to pass tomorrow, or it's not going to pass on March 1st. So, we're certainly going to be under the old rules, at least until something new comes along for the legislature. But there's been nothing that I've seen that's likely to change things much, at least not at this stage.
Definition of just cause?
Just cause, again, you do that twice a year. That's your, you got to take care of a family member. You have to go and there's like childcare or daycare issues. It's a pretty narrow universe of stuff. But it could be, there's a couple pieces of, and I can send you the exact definition, but there is a little bit of wiggle room on one of the things that constitutes just cause. But fundamentally, it's where you have something come up with a family member, loved one, whatever, and you have to go and take care of them, right? Or you have to go out of town and you can't be available because of that, and for whatever reason, you can't do a agenda notice. It's too late. right? So those are your just cause scenarios. And like I said, they're pretty narrow. So it could help you under certain circumstances where something last minute comes up, but for the most part, you probably should be relying on just putting the remote location on the agenda.
There's also a contagious illness that prevents a board member from attending in person.
Yeah. See, that could almost go under emergency circumstances in my mind. But since the board under emergency circumstances, you can make a finding, but it has to be an emergency. And so that's not limited to twice a year, but I think that can only be for 6 months at a time, as I recall. So there's other things you got to do too. You got to say who else is in the room with you, and a majority of the board has to be present physically. And so it's it's not worthless. I mean, there is some utility, but it's narrow. And so you just need to be aware of that.
Okay, Tim, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I had a question, but we've covered it enough, I think.
Okay, well, I'm still somewhat confused. In reading the specific board member prerequisites, over under option 1, it says just cause justification may not be used more than 2 meetings a year.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean it, but if you don't use what just cause justification says, you don't have to give the address of where you will be at during the meeting.
That's correct.
We're then using then we bounce back to the traditional Brown Act, and we can have a number of the board members absent as long as we have a quorum. Is that in the district or at the agency?
In the service area of the agency, meaning within Montara, Granada, or Half Moon Bay.
So what I think I'm hearing you say is that we could have this remote meeting the way we're having it now, if on the agenda we published all of our addresses. So if, for instance, board members from Montara wanted to hold our meeting at the Montara remote location and not drive to Half Moon Bay, we could do that. And the same for Granada. They could remain in Granada and use the Granada office address and not need to go down to Half Moon Bay. And the same for Half Moon Bay. They could use Half Moon Bay City Hall or their own home addresses if they wanted to. And we could just leave the SAM boardroom vacant.
You could. That's correct. But you got to be there. I mean, if you put it on the agenda, that's where you're going to participate from. That's where you need to be. You always have the option to come in, but if that's where you say you're going to be, that's where you're supposed to be.
Okay. This is less restrictive than I had originally thought.
It is. I think it's a common misconception. But yeah, the rules beforehand were pretty permissive already.
Yeah. Montara, actually, when Paul was traveling, we'd have meetings from Berlin and from the Soviet, in the back of the Soviet Union, or in the back of Russia and so on. So it does allow board members to participate.
Mm-hmm.
Still.
It does. So.
Okay. Do we have any more questions?
All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Oh, it looks like.
Oh, Barbara.
So I'm okay with coming in for meetings, but are we going to have, like, is someone going to ask the 6 of us how we want to handle it and sort of make a plan for how this is going to work for our next meeting?
That would be prudent for Kishan to be able to plan the technological, because if everybody is going to be remote, it'll be handled differently than if there's going to be people physically there.
Kishan and I will be there.
Come in there for the next meeting anyway and see how this all works with the remote person, the hybrid version. Is that what is the ideal for the next meeting? I don't need to know this minute, but it would be nice to know well before the next meeting how this is all going to work.
I will reach out to each one of you to find out if you, before I finalize the agenda, to find out if you are going to be participating remotely or at SAM. So
And
that would be a confirmation.
The next meeting is March 13.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Kishan, do you have
Go on.
Do you have the camera? I mean, do you have cameras and other equipment such that if people are participating remotely, if some people are at the district or at the authority and some are not, do you have cameras where people would be able to see each other?
Yeah, we have cameras which can capture the Zoom as well as capture the, capture people in person.
Okay.
Didn't we do the last finance committee meeting that way? And it was fine.
We did the finance committee meeting, but we hadn't made settings for the speaker to take from that equipment. And therefore, that's why at times Director Slater Carter's voice was a little low. So she wasn't, I heard you say, Barbara, that she was not very loud, but later on we changed the setting and we checked it out and it worked fine.
Okay.
We were just getting used to it as a trial. We just testing it out.
Yeah, and it worked real well. I see Carlisle and Young.
Right. I'm not positive if it's an PCTV thing or your new equipment, but I watched your last meeting on the YouTube and I could be wrong, but it looked really blurry to me. So is there a way that you could check that, with the PCTV people and see if maybe the setup is set up properly so that later people that sometimes miss the live meeting could view it, but not have it all be real blurry?
Yeah, was it during the entire meeting or did you find it in parts? Or if you could give us some.
I can't remember, but I didn't remember. I couldn't see people's names very easily.
Okay.
Thanks.
No problem. We'll check it out.
Okay, seeing no more hands up and we're at the director's reports. Do we have a director's report? Seeing none, let's take a 7-minute break. It's 8:09, so let's.
Oh, there was one more item, topics for future board consideration, whether anybody would want to add anything or you missed that.
I did. I'm sorry. And please get back to Keishan if you have any. We are going to be putting the Q2 report from closed session back on the on the consent agenda, back on the next consent agenda for approval with the suggested changes having been made.
Right. Okay.
Can we just go straight to closed session without a break?
I need a 5-minute break.
Can we keep it to 5 minutes?
We can keep it to 5 minutes, 8:15. Thank you.
Bye, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
I know.